Blessings in Jesus' name. So again, in today's video, I'm going to be exposing spiritual warfare tactics, but I'm going to let you know that every time I do, I come under demonic attack, and a heightened sort of demonic attack, such that when I'm busking on the street, the enemy knows that I had a pre-existing injury there, so he tells his demons to hang out of it. Like, because it's a physical weakness and infirmity of mine, and I'm trying to work, I'd like contribute something to society in a positive manner, which is certainly enriching others. Music enriches others, and I don't play it so badly that it would be an issue for anybody, and it shouldn't. Even as a person learning music on the side of the street, shouldn't be an issue for somebody else because they don't deem them good enough. Everybody has the right to busk, period. And it's not taxable income, so you can't charge them for access to do so. You simply can't. Now, granted, it wouldn't be practical for two buskers to be too close to each other, because you wouldn't be able to hear either of them clearly. So, you know, asking them to be a certain distance apart, a reasonable distance apart as well, like, means, like, not too far apart, but is something that is, you know, reasonable to ask them to be well heard by the people passing by, and not just sort of confused various different sources that so you can't hear anyone clearly. But Dublin City Council have overstepped the law, and now they're trying to charge people for accessing busking space, when in actuality busking is not taxable income. So the council don't really have any right to charge you 60, 90, 100 euros for a busking space, and they don't have any lawful right to audition you for a space, because they don't actually hold any space. The space belongs to the public, so they can't be leasing it out to people or licensing people to do so on their own discriminatory basis because they deem one person better than another or playing well enough to access the position. They're not in that position, so they're not actually lawfully allowed to charge anybody or to regulate who plays and who doesn't. That's not their place, and they're breaking the laws of Ireland, trying to charge people for income that isn't taxable, or access to busking, access to arts, access to even sale of works. They really can't prevent people from having that access in Ireland. In Ireland you have a right to seek homage, and you have a right to sell your wares, and the council can't be preventing people from doing so. Now, one thing you're not allowed to do is get in the way of throughput. So obviously that's why buskers have always traditionally looked for maybe vacant buildings to busk in front of, or little archways that people don't pass through, or just position themselves in a wide thoroughfare where they're not stopping anybody moving by. And sometimes people gather, and you see the busker saying, guys, if you're going to gather, can you please move forward and bunch together so other people can get by easily? And so that's the type of thing that the police can police, is if you're attracting too much attention, they can move the people along, but not you along on the basis that the people are gathering. That's not reasonable, that you would prevent somebody from busking because people are gathering to watch them. That's not reasonable. The guards have the authority to move the people along, or to ask them to move in closer to the busker, or whatever it might be. And I mean, if the busker is attracting so many people that, you know, people are stopping for quite a while, maybe they should erect a little bandstand for people who are attracting a crowd, and in that manner regulate it, you know. But I mean, here in Wexford there's a bandstand. The problem is it's not really on the sort of the thoroughfare or the main street. It's quite off of it actually. But yeah, so it's just a case of the government would have to call Dublin into submission to the laws of this country, and they're really not permitted to charge people for busking. They're just not. Because busking is on a gift basis. You're not actually asking anybody for money. You're not actually contracting with anybody. You know, people can, or they may or may not contribute a gift to you, which is not taxable income. So the fact that the Dublin City Council, this is a little off topic in what I was going to introduce, but it was something I wanted to deal with. The Dublin City Council are not entitled to audition people for slots on the main street. Buskers. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I do appreciate that there are some people who are beggars. This is a very small number now. Some people who are beggars pretending they play an instrument to keep out of sort of the reach of the police. But I mean, the guards aren't stupid, and people aren't stupid, and they know whether somebody's actually genuinely trying to improve at his craft and somebody who's just, you know, holding an accordion on their lap to sort of say, oh, I'm busking, not begging, you know. But in most towns, people in Ireland are fairly sensitive to beggars. You know, they'll quickly estimate whether this person genuinely has homelessness and food needs to be met on a daily basis, or they're actually just sort of an organised begging ring who are returning to a household all in the one fancy car at the end of the day. And the guards will pretty much hear tell of that fairly quickly. And so the guards in Ireland don't really put too much pressure on the guys that genuinely need the contribution for keeping soul and body together. They would, however, round up the guys who are trying to make a living out of it and are taking the mick. So there are laws and there are powers that the guards have already, anti-vagrancy laws, to prevent people from pretending to be buskers. So that's not really an issue. They don't need to further regulate that or charge to regulate it. Now, in fairness, €60 isn't a huge amount of money, but there's no reason to ask for it, because they're not actually in a position to charge people for receiving a gift, and they're not in a position to tell people they can't busk. And that's essentially what they're doing by saying, we're not telling people they can't busk, we're auditioning and then filling the slots. No, you're telling people they can't busk. Now, I think most buskers are fairly reasonable that they're not going to busk too close to another busker. And if they're a joker, the guards have authority to move them. So this is an overstep on the part of Dublin City Council. They've no right to charge people for busking. It's an overstep. It doesn't even make sense. And what's more, they charge the guy who has an amplifier an extra €30. That's preposterous. Going to charge you for an amplifier. Well, why? Is the amplifier a problem? Does it tax people in some way that not having an amplifier doesn't? No. Well, then why are you charging them for having an amplifier? They already have to pay for the amplifier. The amplifier is designed to improve the quality of the sound that people are receiving in the area and improve the general quality of busking. Now, if it's too loud, they can test the volume and then ask them to turn it down, and that's the responsibility of the council, to come out and test it with a decibel measurement tool, decibel level, the volume of the sound, the amplitude of it, the noise, how loud it is. They can test that with a machine, and if it is above the acceptable thing, they can tell the person to turn it down, and if they refuse, remove them. So, with the guards. So they do have authorities, but now what they're doing is pretending to have authorities they don't have, and that's not acceptable. We have to call them into submission to our laws. You're not entitled to charge somebody for busking in Ireland, and you can't make bylaws that contradict the Constitution. They can only be corollaries of it, and you can't be telling people they can't busk. And that's essentially what they've done. They've limited the reach. Whereas it's first come, first served. It always has been with busking. If you want to get a busking slot, go out early in the morning. And you can only busk for so long before your voice gets tired. So it has a natural way of working itself out. So the fact that they're now trying to limit the reach of the people and control who it is busking is not acceptable in Ireland. Buskers tend to get together, they tend to rally together anyway, get to know each other, and then they'll organise it amongst themselves. That's probably what they're doing anyway, they have to, because they have to apply for a slot. So just leave them at it and stop trying to tell people they can't busk, and stop trying to charge people for the receipt of a gift. It's not taxable income. They're really overstepping the mark now in Dublin on this front. Trying to control who says what and who does what. And it's way above the reach of the guards and the reach of the council. They're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. It's beyond the laws. So they need to be reel it back in a bit. If you want to get a busking slot, get up early in the morning and get it. And if you don't get up early in the morning, you missed your slot. And then you can just wait until it frees up, because the guy won't busk all day. And then you can take that slot. It's just as simple as that. First come, first served. It's always been like that with busking. And if guys do get too close together, you know, it has a way of working itself out. You know, a guard could come over and he could say, look, you're a bit close to that other person and neither of you can be heard because you can both be heard at the same time. Is there any chance, who was here first? Well, she was here first. Well then, can you wait until she's finished? And all they'd have to do is ask them. Just reasonably say, we'd appreciate if you'd move on, because the quality of the busking for the listener is being impaired because there's too many people along the street. That's all they'd have to do. And people aren't stupid. A busker doesn't want to be jarring with the next busker anyway. If they'll want to be heard. So this is a real overstep on the part of the Dublin City Council. It's trying to over-regulate, but you'll find there's something behind that, because they want their spokespeople out there. They want their spokespeople getting the access, and that has to stop. Everybody has access to busk in Ireland. Everybody has freedom of speech, opinion and belief, freedom to express themselves, and busking comes under that banner. So you can't be telling people they don't have access to express themselves. That has to stop. And you can't be charging them for expressing themselves. That has to stop. It's against the laws of this land. And Dublin City Council could be sued for it. Blessings in Jesus' name. I'll start another video to address what I had introduced at the start of this one.